Orleans area is surrounded by water. To the south, the Gulf of Mexico. Through the heart of the city runs the Mississippi River. To the north, Lake Pontchartrain, and throughout the city many canals and waterways. Most of the city and surrounding areas are below sea level, and most people live in a literal bowl surrounded by water. Our levee systems were designed to protect us to some extent, but failed because of the magnitude of the storm. What the wind did not devastate, the floodwaters that followed did. On August 29, 2005, the Gulf Coast region was hit by a catastrophic hurricane named Katrina. It resulted in the worst disaster ever to hit the United States in its history. Then shortly after, Hurricane Rita hit the Gulf Coast. The damage was extensive. In total, over 1,000 people died, and many still remain unaccounted for. All of our brothers were affected by these storms. Many lost their homes, jobs, and some even lost their lives. Many kingdom halls were destroyed. All our brothers' lives were rearranged. Many evacuated, never to return. Many lost everything they owned. Here is a failure on the Industrial Canal. These canals were designed to move water from the city, but many were undermined. Here is another example. This is the failure on the 17th Street Canal. This is how much of the area looked after the storm, totally inundated with water. And those who are not rescued by boat were rescued by rooftops and by helicopter. And those who remain sought higher ground. Here is a shot from Interstate 10. Welcome, brothers and sisters, to the New Orleans area.
Just look out for dead cows and dead people.
Now I see why you wanted to take my truck.
I didn't know about this.
Me either.
I could have taken my truck.
Let's take Danny's truck.
Where's the fishing pole?
We like your truck.
Ooh, you smell that?
I got some redfish up ahead.
I don't want to eat them.
Road to Buras. Where are we, Daniel?
Right below Myrtle Road.
Oh, really? We passed Myrtle Grove and I didn't even know?
Yeah, we just passed through. Look at that house way out there.
Right.
I was like, hey, I don't think you can drive it down there.
God, it stinks.
Guess what y'all gonna be doing this afternoon?
Washing your truck.
Yeah.
You smell?
Yeah.
That's his car. And that, they used to have a building, that metal building back there, used to be my storage area.
And what plant?
Tennessee Gas pipeline right here. We're approaching Port Sulphur, Louisiana, which is situated about 40 miles south of New Orleans, right on the Mississippi River. This area from here to the mouth of the river was underwater for over a month. And almost all the houses in these areas were totally destroyed. As you can tell, most of them were even moved off their property, detached from their foundations, and floated down the streets.
I can't believe what I'm looking at.
This day is the first time many in this area
Huh?
will be able to see their property in over a month.
Your mom is what?
Gotta be balling.
I would think.
We're now approaching Empire, Louisiana. This is where Katrina first made landfall as a strong Category 4 storm. Empire was not only home to our congregation here where we grew up, but it was also home to many people's livelihoods. We're about to approach Empire Marina, where most of the locals here were fishermen. Shrimp, oysters, crabs. This was a home base of operations for a lot of those. The Empire congregation was only about a half mile from the Empire Marina. Here we see many of the fishing vessels that were moored in Empire Marina for safekeeping. We see how the mighty wind and waters just picked those boats up and landed them right on the road.
Yeah, the debris in the levee. Plug you off. You guys will hit that car if you don't watch out. Alright, the Kingdom Hall's coming up after.
This was the Kingdom Hall.
This is where the Empire congregation met for years. As you can tell, the sign was even blown away, advertising where the Kingdom Hall was at. I remember for years pulling up to this Kingdom Hall. It was so beautiful because of the green meadow-like appearance it had. And as we walked to the Kingdom Hall, we were perplexed because we couldn't even find a piece of the Kingdom Hall. And the things that did remain were amazing. Here where my brother and I stand is where both of us gave our first talks. This is where my brother and I grew up both physically and spiritually. And I remember my first talk here was Ecclesiastes 12. It was very fitting. I was only 6 years old. And here's an example of things that were left. The building was gone, but we found some of the sound equipment, and a few of the chairs remained. What was interesting about them, even the cloth was pulled or tore away from the chairs. Here's one of the filing cabinets the brothers kept records in. It was amazing what stayed and what went away. And this is a picture of the back of the property of the Kingdom Hall to show you how high the water was. You've seen that refrigerator. It was 15 feet or so up in the trees. The levee we're looking at right here is part of the levee system that keeps the water from the Mississippi River away from Empire and the surrounding areas. And as we continue southward, we beheld many unnatural sights. Houses in the street, vehicles turned upside down. And here's another example of the levee. You can see how high the debris was piled up on top of the levee.
This is where Andre and them lived. Remember you met them?
This is where
Their house.
a large spiritual family lived, the Colemans. Freddie and Mona Coleman,
Yeah.
their daughter Quinlan, and her husband
Where are they
Andre.
now?
Both took up residence here.
What was this place?
The trucking. Your brother Wilson's up on this side.
Keith, that's one of the few times you'll get to say that. The house ran into the tree.
Slow down a little bit, Keith.
We're now approaching Buras, Louisiana, about 5 to 7 miles down the road from Empire. As you can see, the water tower collapsed.
All my cousin's place.
Look at all the coffees out.
God, the coffee.
This is one of the many sites that you would see around the New Orleans area because of being below sea level.
Where are
We
they?
had- people had to be buried above ground because of the moisture.
What happened?
Got a convenience store.
As we continue down the road, we get closer to where my brother and I grew up, my parents' home.
That portable building. Still a portable building.
This is where my mother's spiritual mother lived for a long time. I remember coming here many times for Bible studies with her son. She's since moved out of the area, but we have many fond memories of that house. This is turning down the street where my brother and I grew up, Collins Drive in Buras, Louisiana. And as you can tell, there's many things out of place. This is the first time my mother has seen the house since the hurricane.
How much you want for it, Joel? $2 to do it?
This was a very overwhelming and emotional experience for us all. Coming back to the place where we grew up, we spent so much of our life. Even though we're temporary residents in this world, a home is a home for all of us. And this is the first time that I have entered to the house, looking for anything to salvage. And as I go inside, the smell and the sight is just overwhelming. Nothing to explain it. And the sight we've seen is what a lot of people in the area, all along the Gulf Coast, have seen. The mold, the dampness, the residue and muck from the water that was left behind.
It's like everybody, all our friends,
Even like our house compared to most
stores, my work. I had to stop by the library in Port Sulphur. Was just rubble. It's just you know, it would be different if it's just like a town, but it's all the towns, the whole town.
The rafters are broke right there. I could cut that piece completely off and have
It ain't us.
somebody else's pictures.
That's what I'm saying. Some of the stuff ain't even our stuff.
That's what's unreal.
Don't come in here, man.
But I want to
What was amazing was what the water can do to a house. We just picked up the house, and this is the kitchen. And it's about 6 or 7 feet above the rest of the house. This is one of the many things, or one of the few things, I should say, that we salvaged from the house. It's from my grandfather.
It's just bad. Here, pass this out to Mom. Pass this to Mom. Yeah, it was near the wall where it was hanging.
Smells pretty bad in here.
Yeah, it's a granddad saw, yeah. See if I can find anything else. It's just not. It's not a picture, it's just a frame.
That's Josh's room.
Yeah, it was. I don't see it. Is it dead? No, it was good.
If it was just like his brother Brubacker's house, brother Brubacker's slab.
This situation reminds us of what Jesus mentioned of the value of Jehovah's animal creation when he said that not a sparrow will fall to the ground without your Father's knowledge. So we were sure to leave a fresh water and a hearty MRE meal, which is readily accepted by this dog. And as we continue southward, we can see that the destruction has left nothing unturned. Complete neighborhoods are wiped away.
Big barge.
Me and Charlie built that house right there.
And again, we're reminded of how vulnerable Jehovah's animal creation was to this storm and how they were just left out to the environment. We can see that they're roaming the streets looking for green grass to eat, but all of it was killed because of the salt water intrusion. Now we're in the Bluefield Venice area, and we're coming across the end of the levee protection. This area is known as Venice Marina, and the road that we're approaching is Tidewater Road. And at high tide, this road is usually inundated with a few inches of water. It's not rare to see, a little more water than that. But as you can tell, there's little greener areas here because the water didn't stay within the levees. It actually went back out to the Gulf because of not having a levee protection system. And here we can see where the water gradually receded by all the debris that was piled up here.
Really?
Hurricane-proof house.
This is Cypress Cove Marina, where a lot of sports fishermen kept their boats.
Boat floated inside this.
Yeah, take a picture from right there. All the way pan across.
It's amazing. This is a safe haven for sports fishermen and also commercial fishermen who love to venture out upon the waters.
Didn't make it.
Unbelievable. I've never seen such devastation.
That's an expensive aircraft right there. That's a big old aircraft.
This is
Daniel's friend.
Sister Bulat's house, which, as you can tell, was very highly elevated.
When he was young,
But the wind and wave action knocked out the front of the house,
water was up to the.
and it still
close
had
to the top of the roof.
15 feet or so of water. And as you can see, they're trying to claim what little bit they have left and bring it out and clean it out.
Just
Sister
salvaging,
Bulat's husband here was also a
dishes and things, not much.
owner of an orange grove, which was across the street. And my brother and I, when we were younger, used to pick oranges in his grove. We're heading back up north again. This is Buras, Louisiana again, what we passed through earlier.
Alright, we're gonna get out and stand next to it and show you how big this thing is. Just go.
This story I told a few different times. This is
20 foot.
the tanker for the Louisiana Responder. It's a 450-foot
Top of a boat.
oil tanker that is used to suck up if there's oil
Tell me again
spills.
what it is.
This Louisiana Responder was moored over by Fort Jackson.
Which
the dock
is-
down there, which is about probably 2 or 3 miles south of here.
So it came the opposite way of.
During the hurricane, it came north up the river, so the current was flowing north, and it eventually got pushed over this side. And the levee out right here, the levee's 18 feet tall right here. The water had been over
Yeah.
25 feet. And you can see where it rested, it scooted up the side of the levee there. Kind of pushed like a big old backhoe.
Bulldozer.
Again, another awesome display of the hurricane's fury.
50 feet up.
Most
just
water
went down.
towers are designed to withstand 200+ mile-an-hour winds, and we can see this one crumble down.
You got the lens on there.
This is where my mother,
This is,
Patricia Walker,
Buras Library.
worked.
We're about to look up my family history. Dan's gonna find it. Get out your way in a minute, Josh.
No, I don't want to. I wrote many book reports and projects in here.
Daniel.
As you can tell by looking at the ceiling, the water
look at this. The
at
first
once touched
book
the
I
ceiling
picked
of
up,
this
I
book.
swear.
The history of the family.
No,
of
read
Buras.
it. First book I've seen. World Disasters.
Jeez.
I swear it's the first book I've seen.
As we were driving up and down the road, we happened upon some of our brothers and sisters. This was the property of brother Freddie and sister Mona Coleman. And here we see Freddie Coleman and his brother James sizing up the task ahead. My brother and I grew up with both of his sons, which one of them went to Bethel and served for a few years. Again, we're passing through Empire, Louisiana. That's where the congregation at one time was. And it was a home for approximately 60 publishers, our dear brothers and sisters.
Here's the gateway to Empire. The Mayflower.
You film?
That's where you get parking in the wrong place.
Again, another awesome display of how powerful the water and wind was. This truck was picked up and impelled to this oak tree.
Parking in the wrong place.
We now left the Plaquemines
That's the
Parish
water
area
line right there.
and are back in the New
I'll
Orleans
pop it
area.
up. The backyard.
And as you can see, this is a typical scene of a New Orleans area house. Furniture toppled, mold from the floor to the ceiling. Little here can be salvaged.
Hallway, and the doors need to come out. Doors need to come off the hinges. It's the same bedroom we just looked at. Hallway. Bedroom. Living room. Canal Boulevard. You can see the water line up to the window, and SPCA came by. As you see, dead cat inside. This is unbelievable. Lake, and as you go closer toward the lake, the water line on the houses get higher and higher.
This is the Lakeview
This is
area
West End
of
Boulevard.
New Orleans.
Through the floodgates. And a new addition to is this boat. Bridge we walk up. Brunings was right here.
This is a location of 3 local favorite
mean, it's
restaurants
gone.
in the area. This first one here
was
doesn't look like
Brunings.
much now, but was a 2-story
Pilings are here.
restaurant known as Brunings,
There's some of the
which has been there over 100
pelicans
years.
and ducks are still
And as you
here.
can tell, it's been completely wiped away.
And
by the
Brunings
storm
house
surge.
was right there. A little past it is Jaegers, right over there. All you can eat crawfish, especially now. Look at Jaegers.
This is the New Orleans Municipal Marina and Harbor. As you can tell, it was totally destroyed. We're now heading to some of the hardest hit areas in New Orleans, the lower Ninth Ward and St. Bernard Parish. Here you can see some of the designations the rescuers used to denote if any were saved from these houses. There stood one problem post-Katrina, and that was rumors. That's an example of one of these rumors where local people here thought a musician, local jazz musician, Fats Domino, died, but he was rescued from his house during the storm, or right after the storm. It's a common sight that people in this area will see for the next few months, piling of debris on the street. This area that we're looking at right now is the Ninth Ward. And this area was inundated from water from the industrial canal. This is an odd picture of this area because usually there's people teeming the streets, walking around. Our brothers here have been affected mentally, emotionally, financially, and even spiritually. Months after the storm, many are suffering from Katrina fatigue. What you are seeing here is just a sampling of our area. It cannot begin to capture the loss, the smell, the silence, and the depression that has resulted from these storms. The answer to many of your questions as to how to rebuild is, we don't know. What we do know is that we are part of an organization, Jehovah's Organization, that not only uses the term brothers and friends, but in reality are brothers and friends. People from all over the U.S. and the world are coming here to help their brothers in the faith. Most of us will never know your names or from where you come, but your presence here is heartwarming, encouraging, faith-strengthening, and spiritually upbuilding. Our appreciation is too hard to express in words. Matthew 25:40 says in part, "Truly I say to you, to the extent you did this to the least of my brothers, you did it to me." So we are blessed to be a part of an organization that displays work in support of their faith. We might not be able to thank you personally, but we appreciate everything that our brothers are doing here for us.